Hello, 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 good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are watching us from, we are here again today, coming to you live from Sydney, Australia on Alemanor TV, bringing to you the wonderful week that we have, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to delve into some issues about how the week has been floating and how I personally came through with my week today. It was a very significant week, and without much ado, today we are going to be talking about today's boat in the world. Last week we talked about finding the boat, and if you missed that episode, I will urge you to go back and watch that episode, which is episode 9. Today is episode 10, where we will be looking at today's boat in the world. Without much ado, please let's welcome Miss Petra Page and Wilfred Roach. Welcome to the program.
Hi,
Hello.
Victoria. Hi, Will.
Hi.
Hi, Victoria.
Hello, hello. So before we started, Petra, you were having some wonderful conversation about how my week was, and
Yes, that's right. You shared with us that it had been a bit of a tough week, and I asked you about that. And just in the context of the boat that we were talking about last week, where you found yourself in the water and floundering around, your life advice, so beautifully given, was look for the boat, get to the boat. And what I heard from you was, I saw the boat and I got onto it. So can you tell us a little bit about how was your week and in terms of the floundering around, finding that boat and getting onto it?
oh, wonderful! What a wonderful question. This week, actually, I found myself thrown out of the boat again, and because this weekend was the weekend that my uncle who helped us bury my mom, he passed. And whilst this weekend was his funeral, it just brought back a lot of emotions for me, and a lot of things took me back into a whole lot of areas that I have put in the back burner. But then I just saw myself that when I was thrown out of the boat, I thought I was doing so well until Uncle's funeral came along, and then I have to dig deep, and then also tell myself that how did I even get here in the first place? I've been through so much throughout the year, and here I am again. How did I even get here in the first place? I'm still breathing. How did that work? So one of the key things I did was that I went back to the episode we did last week to look for the boat. And what was the boat for me this week was the fact that I just encouraged myself that if I have come this far, then I might have done something that actually worked, and something that I can actually always reach out to. So I just thought I was looking forward to come to this program and then have a little bit deeper conversation about it.
I love the way you're talking about how you resource yourself. And and that's the thing when we first get into grief or loss and grief, is we feel like this is forever and I'm always going to feel this way. And yet here you are, yes, you're back, but at the same time you've been here before, you know that it does pass.
Yes, yes. I was actually, one of the key things I did was that I started looking at the situation that I found myself throughout the week, like the stock market. The stock market goes up and down, up and down. And here I am. I was doing very well until the weekend came, and then all of a sudden I was back again. And then I have to remind myself that I have to go back and look for that boat. The boat is the thread or something that you can hang on to and catch your breath and then survive through the boat. Whilst you're on the boat, you can actually find someone who will be willing to help you. You can breathe, you can be yourself, your beliefs will carry you through. So my beliefs were on the far front throughout the week whilst I was having a conversation.
Yeah, so what I'm really hearing is that you have a sense of agency, that you can do something even in a difficult situation. You can resource yourself. What are your thoughts about agency, Will?
It's interesting because I'm listening to Victoria. The word, or I thought I heard the word ourselves, and I thought, what is the root of the origin of that word? And actually, if you split the word, there's R, O-U-R, and then selves. So, after the show, I'll look that up as to the root of that particular word. But it suggests to me that there are different parts of ourselves that we can tap into. We are a sovereign individual, but there's much investment that has gone into the creation for us to be sitting here today, whether it's what we have done ourselves, what our parents have done, grandparents, our children, if we have them, our nieces, nephews, they all consistently contribute to ourselves. We are different parts of ourselves. And if you can identify, it's like looking for the key in the lock. If you can identify key with lock, bam, you're there. Or you can be sort of forever thinking, well, maybe the answer is over there, maybe the answer is over there, maybe the answer is over there. You know, what I've sort of reaffirmed for myself, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. What I'm reaffirming for myself is that the answers are within me. They are not out there.
And what I'm hearing is there are parts of you that are resourced and uniquely resourced. You know, and in a moment they will step forward, and it may be that really compassionate, soft part of you, you know, who is meeting Victoria, say, in this sad revisiting of the losses that she's had this year, but also this really resourceful self, or maybe the critical self that, hang on a minute, you know, you need to be doing this or need to be doing that. So you know, you can call out on call these different aspects of yourself to the fore. But of course, like Victoria said, it's all ourselves. I love that. I think that's a really powerful way of looking at ourselves, because we do very quickly get reduced, don't we, into this one blubbering heap and forget.
And we do that to ourselves. That's the funny thing. We do it. We boil ourselves. You know, I always remember my mother, you know, she was making, because she, you know, was a cook, and she would, you know, make a lot of our own meals at home, you know, that to create a soup, we would have, you know, vegetables and, you know, particular cuts of meat and so on. But she would create a base. Yeah. And then, so reduce everything.
That. That's such a great analogy, Will. I love that.
And then add water, then, you know, add the ingredient, add the constituent ingredients, and then add water and put that would be held in a big pot. So if we see ourselves as a big pot with a lid, we don't really need, you know, I guess the qualities that are required in given situations, and I think of particularly demanding situations in my life, the qualities that we need to be able to figure out which key goes in which lock is a sense of acceptance, a sense of calmness, which is hard. You know, each person can say for themselves what that feels like, but it's like a stillness in this heart of the storm.
Yeah. I hear you, Will. I hear you mentioning the word key. So a couple of times.
Yeah, Victoria's favorite word.
That's my favorite word. It's not only my favorite word, it is also my name. It's not only is it my business, it's also my traditional name. My traditional name means opener, right? And as a matter of fact, whenever I find myself in a sticky situation, I remind myself about what my name means. If you're an opener, you also have the opportunity to close something. So if the key, you keep talking about the keys to our survival in life and the keys to progress and the keys that fish us from every situation we find ourselves is always within. Most of the time it's within. And what I normally find myself, there's a African proverb that says that the day the frog dies, that's the day you know how long or how tall the frog is, because the frog is always squatting. When he's dead, you see him very long. And the day that you find yourself in a situation that life has thrown at you, that is the day that you realize that you actually have the key that opens or locks a particular door for you. So there could be some doors that have been locked all these years until a situation presents itself. And then you run around, you realize that everywhere you go, you come back to the same key. Do you turn the key to open, or do you turn it to keep locking the door? And so what I did in my particular situation was that I realized that The key to be happy, to reset, to regroup and recharge and restart is still with me. It's still within me. And so I can pick myself up and start going again. And that's exactly what I did this weekend. I find myself in that hole again. And then I thought, can I just sit here and be crying all day? Well, yes and no. If I stay there all day, what happens? And then what if I accept the fact that this has happened? It's going to be part of life. And I just need to reorganize my thoughts and keep going. And that is what I did. So the key I found this weekend was the fact that I used the key to just reset and restart and then keep going. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And you know, part of the key is to try to unlock ourselves and keep all the doors open so that we always have access to those resources. And, you know, many of us actually don't realize that we're locked up. And that we actually have all this, these rooms of treasures that we could access if only we could get the doors open. I think that's a beautiful analogy. And you know, I love the idea of the dead frog, you know, where it's always very small until it's dead and then it's all very long. And what does that mean, Victoria? I mean, it just sounds as if, you know, you only kind of get your measure towards the end when you've unlocked all these doors and you do have a sense of yourself and you can stand fully in yourself. And hopefully, unlike the frog, your heart is still beating.
Yes.
But it reminds me of that comedy, I don't know, is a very popular comedy duo, Laurel and Hardy. And I think there was, I love them. Yeah. And I think there was a skit where Laurel or Hardy, I can't remember which, because one was big and one was small.
Laurel was tall and
telling
thin,
the other one.
Yeah.
And one was always telling the other one, you know, look, it's really, really simple. And the other one was saying, like, scratching is the small one. Say, what? And there was a skit, I think, where they would something to do with the door. And Laurel, the big one, was saying, look, it's really simple, and was opening the door, and Hardy was closing the door, and Laurel was opening the door, and Hardy was closing the door. And then Hardy did a bit of domestic violence and knocked him on the head. And he's like, why did you do that? And he said, look, let me show you. And maybe I'm not imagining it correctly. I need to go back to Laurel and Hardy and find out. But I can see this door. And it's, to me, what that in essence says is that we sometimes really make things hard for ourselves, and we're really fighting with ourselves. And actually the door is actually already open. You just need to go through it. But we just say, oh no, I'm not quite ready for it. Oh no, I don't look right. Oh no, maybe that's not the right door. Maybe it was the door that it doesn't look like the door I went before. And that can be represented by tears or anxiety or worry or being stuck, basically. And you can give yourself, it's Victoria mentioned acceptance, and I think I mentioned acceptance. You can give yourself permission to be stuck, and you can give yourself permission to unstick yourself and get on with your life, because that's what we do.
I think that brings us to a really good point here, and that is that many of the doors actually don't have locks on them. You can just turn the handle and open them, but we just don't realize that. We turn away from them and get in our own way. I mean, I was telling you earlier as well, I was just sharing that, you know, that's certainly something that I've done, and not really looking at possibility as something for me. It's just something for somebody else, because I'm not enough to step through that doorway or even turn the handle. I don't have the strength or whatever it might be. You know, we tell ourselves these stories, and then it's so painful, because in fact, we are so amazing and so resourced and so able. And when we're connected with others, almost anything is possible. But we kind of hide ourselves away and turn away from the door. And it's really a tragedy. So it's one of the reasons I've really loved this whole analogy of the boat, is it's full of, there is a safe landing place. I can get there. It can be mine. And I can then set it into the wind and go where I need to go. I just need to upskill myself a little, learn how to raise the sail. But it is, as you know, going back to the very beginning of last episode, look around and see your boat and head for it. Don't doubt that it's there.
And you know, one of the things that we said last week about the boat was the fact that whilst you are in the boat, you feel safe.
Yeah.
You feel safe until that boat is just turn around, and then the whole thing is withdraw. You find yourself far away from the boat, and there you are. You got to figure out how to get back into the boat. And it just tells you that sometimes when we find ourselves in a situation where we lose the safety or the security of the environment that we are comfortable in, and we lose that all of a sudden, finding the boat again requires a number of things. And one of the keys that I think we need to do whilst we are trying to get back onto the boat, finding the today's topic, which is like today's boat in the world. In the world, one of the key things you can use to find your boat again is your voice. And most of the time, it is the most easiest thing that we can access away from any other thing. If you lose your voice in the middle of every other thing that is happening to you, how can someone know that you need that sort of help if you don't voice out what is going on with what help you need? And so in doing that, you have to make yourself visible so that people can know that something is going on. That's what I have been doing all this time.
I think a lot of people also struggle to even name things for themselves. What do you think about that, Will?
Say that again?
I think often people struggle to even name for themselves what it is that's going on for them. And it's hard to kind of even identify it within our own experience, much less articulate that to somebody else. We may be numbed from our feelings, or as I say, we're standing in front of a door and we don't even realize that there's a whole dictionary of words behind it. We have no access to that. What's your experience of that?
Well, what occurs to me, my sort of immediate reaction to that is that there's not an equality of experience. We don't often approach life with an equality of experiences. Each of us, can have a similar experience, but approach it and experience it in a totally different way. And so sometimes we do have to, depending on the relationship with the person that we meet, or even a stranger. And in a way, we're all of the human species, so none of us are really strangers in that broad sense. But when you're hearing somebody's story, for instance, I'm privileged to hear people's stories, and certainly when I was working at Lifeline, was privileged to hear people's stories for 10 years. I never interjected or inserted myself into their story. I always listened without prejudice, judgment, or assumption. I mean, that's one of my sort of natural traits, in that I do listen to people, and I listen to their version of themselves in a particular situation and take it from there. I don't think insert myself into their story and think, well, I wouldn't do it that way, and I didn't. Why did they do that? And why? It's really holding space for someone else, which is not the same as inserting yourself into their story. Hold space for others. Be respectful of others' journey. And like the weary pilgrim who takes a pit stop, then be there for them, and then they can continue with their journey.
Yeah.
Can I add what you said before you come in? And I know one of the good things, or one of the key things that Petra is also good at doing, is listening to what someone is saying. You did say something, Petra. You say that the ability to name the problem can also be a problem. Because the thing is, if what Will is saying, to be able to listen to people's story, it's one thing listening to the person, and another thing listening in to understand what the person is trying to say to you, that this is what is going on with me. So someone may be having a headache and said, I just thought, I just feel a little bit, warm, like my temperature is up today or something. Because she didn't say I'm having headache, so you probably didn't know this is what is going on. or someone may be having something else, and then to her, she's saying it in a language that she understands. So in terms of listening, Petra, one of the key things I think we also need to factor in is the fact that when someone is mentioning something in a particular way, how do we bring them in to work out what exactly is going on? For example, in my situation, when I find myself with all these things going on, it's like swimming in the ocean with all this splatter of water. Oh my God. Like, where's the boat? Where's the boat sort of thing? And then you just like, oh my God, I'm taking too much water, too much water. And then you're like, oh gosh. Then all of a sudden, what do I need to do? So, okay, I've got a voice, I wanted to use it, but then how do I communicate what is happening with me so that someone can understand and help me? And that's what I did. And it's a relaxation.
Yeah, and very often you won't be able to communicate it because you are so busy, being in that survival place. And the thing is, we're just saying that a person has their story, and the story is actually telling them whether they've got locked doors, whether there's a boat, whether they're capable even of swimming there. And what is really helpful is if we're orientating ourselves around what they're doing with curiosity, like, how are you thinking about your experience? What is underneath this flapping around? Oh, you're in the water. Okay, so what is it that you're trying to do? Stay afloat. Okay, so how are you doing that? Why are you in such a panic? I think that it's trying to really figure out how that story is enabling or limiting them. And we do that with curiosity and listening. And when they start to hear themselves, well, this is what I'm thinking. Oh, this is what I'm trying to do. Have you noticed that you actually have a pair of flippers on your legs, or you're wearing armbands or something, or what are those things? Life vest. Can you calm down and actually just look at the situation? Suddenly, then they have access to all of those parts. But I think that we all get very reactive to what is apparently on the surface, and then we want to fix it. And actually, the person has their solutions. It's really about bringing them to an awareness of the fact that they have all their solutions, that they do have a sense of self-direction, and what can they do to engage themselves in the direction they want. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does answer the question. And it also talk about a key thing that I think I was waiting to hear that you mentioned. It's one thing you listening and hearing what someone else's needs are, and it's another thing you guiding them onto the boat where they can find shelter and where they can find safety, where they can find help. And so if you're listening into the story and then, oh, thank you for sharing your story, I'm sorry to hear that, see you later, or thank you for hearing your story, I might not be able to help you, but I know if you call this number or if you talk to this person, or I'll talk to the person for you to help you. So then that is helping the person in today's boat finding, directing the person back to a resource that can actually energize them or give them back something else that they are looking for. So even if we don't have the solution, sometimes we may know someone who have the solution.
Yeah. And the thing is, you touch on such a good point there, because I think the great fear is that we're alone. Here we are in the ocean and we are alone. And so even if we're still there alone in this vast ocean and our boat is miles off and we can't actually see it, the fact that we know a spotter plane has seen us and that we are somehow going to ultimately be reconnected to possibility means that we can be calm. But I think that it is really, really scary to be on your own. And when you got into your funk on the weekend, part of the pain, Victoria, is those people are gone and I'm alone and I can't get them back, and I'm powerless to do anything about it. And then I'm alone with my powerlessness. And it's such a really terrifying place to be. And we can't always overcome the feeling of powerlessness or the difficulties in life, but we always can reach out, as you said, because a burden, shared is a burden halved. Two heads are better than one. We've got all these sayings, haven't we? Because we know that things are always done better in company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will,
do you want to say something? Yeah.
No, I was just aware that perhaps we're drawing to a close.
Yes.
And sorry about that. There was a bit of technical difficulty.
Yeah, well done. You got back.
Yeah, my dad always used to had a saying of one hand can't clap.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, and he just sort of inflict these sayings or old people sayings, and I was like, one hand can't clap. I tried to visualize one hand not, and actually as an adult, it can't. I've got one hand, it can't clap. I mean, it
You're
can't.
flapping in the wind. Yeah.
You're flapping in the wind. So I guess it's try and stop yourself flapping in the wind, and see where the other half is in terms of the hand, and see what happens when you can bring both into contact with the other, and what magic occurs when you clap.
Excellent. So on that note, can we all summarize what we pick up from today's session before we bring everything to a close?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we always conclude on some level that we are resourced internally, and that in so many ways we liberate that resource by being connected, not just to possibility and a boat and so on, but to others who are in our world. And that self-resourcing and that external resourcing really orientates us, and being able to name what's going on, and I guess as a result of that, make meaning and get some direction. It makes a huge difference to our ability to get ourselves back on the boat. That's my takeaway.
Lovely.
What did you take away today, Will?
The boat is never just the boat. The boat is two oars.
Yes,
the boat is there's always something in the the shell of the boat that you can get your hands on to help you navigate safely to shore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful summary, Will. I love it. What about you, Victoria? Anything from you to summarize?
The summary is that the boat, what you're looking for the boat, you need it to look at what do you have that can take you to where the boat is. And most of the time, we have our voice, which is a key that we can use and say, hey, I'm drowning. Hello, somebody, can you see I'm flapping? And I'm going down, taking a lot of water. Hello, somebody, my head is still up. So
I don't think I've ever said that with such a beautiful smile, but anyway, carry on.
One of my favorite quotes is from Les Brown, who says that when the world knocks you down, make sure you land on your back, because if you can look up, you can always get up. Otherwise,
unless you're a turtle.
That's a good one. If you can look up, you can get up, unless you're a turtle. That's a good one. And so for me, if I'm taking in a lot of water and I'm actually swimming towards the boat, but I feel like my legs are a bit heavy, I think that the best thing to do is to yell out and say, hey, somebody please help. And our voices are always with us, and we could use it in a very more productive way when we find ourselves in trouble. So on that note, I want to thank you all for another wonderful section. We could go on forever, but I tell you what, you don't want to miss the next section because it's loaded with so much, and it's going to be the final episode for our season 1. So we look forward to seeing you again. And once again, let's give it up for Petra Page and Wilfred Road. Thank you all for coming.
And Victoria Glover. Thank you everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye now.